BBS. BBS. I see it everywhere. PenBBS. I see them at pen meets. I see them on eBay. I see them on Instagram. I see colors everywhere. And I thought, let's see what this is all about. So, I reached out to PenBBS. I had a very nice discussion with Frank. And Frank said, I will send you one. I said, thank you. I'm sure people will appreciate it because I know these pens are hot. And I kind of want to see what this is all about. So, PenBBS. Very popular model is the 308, and this is not one of them. This is the 266. As I understand it, very minor difference. The 266 has threads right there at the end of the barrel, and the 308 has the threads right there at the section, as I understand it. But beyond that, same shape, same nib, same nice colors, etc. So not that big a difference. So I think we can safely say the two can be interchanged. All right, even though they are interchangeable, are sort of similar. What do you get? Affordable pen, pen made in China, steel nib, and some very fun colors. This is the Ivory, which is a white, but they come in all sorts of colors. I have another model here. You can already see more color there. So there's all these options, and it's kind of fun. To be honest, it's fun. They're fun pens, and I see the whole deal. They also feel pretty solid. Some plastic pens I've used are they feel cheap and plasticky. This feels like a pretty nice acrylic. It feels pretty robust. The Jinhao 992s, for example, they crack here. They all crack. Everybody complains about their pens cracking. I can see how this would be a slightly more robust model. So, kind of nice. The price ranges about $15 to $60, depends on the specific finish you get, but relatively affordable. Not super cheap, but many of them relatively affordable. Now, I'm going to cover the parts of the pen. I'll do a writing sample. I'll tell you what I like about it, what I don't like about it. But very first of all, Frank, thanks for sending me this pen. I appreciate it. Now, let's get started. Okay, box. This is actually labeled 308, but as I said, very similar to the 266. This is a little pen sleeve the pen came in. I don't have to show you that. Nothing interesting about that. The pen comes in this valuable white cardboard sleeve, and of course there is the box, which I think is actually quite nice. Given the price of these pens, it works well. It's embossed with the PenBBS logo, has a little magnetic closure. I like this. It's a bit refined. I like that. Little slot for your pen. Another pen sleeve, in case you lost the first one. I don't think this comes out. Does it come out? No. But of course you can put your pen in, put this over it, and sort of entomb it. Okay, let's cover the parts of this pen. First thing, zoom in a bit for you so you can see the parts. Size comparison, Lamy Safari. Decently sized pen, I would say. Decently sized pen. Quite nice. So, there's that. Top of the pen, nothing. Finial, same material as the pen cap. I always like that. We have this simple clip. Fairly springy. Bit stiff, but fairly springy. This looks like a sword to me, and I kind of enjoy that. Center band says PenBBS. On one side, it has the I'm pretty sure that's the PenBBS logo. Then we have the 266 model number, PenBBS logo, and that's it. Barrel and cap, same material, always like that. Tapers down nicely and ends in the same material, and that's a solid piece, so there's no little end cap there, which does mean, of course, that in theory you should be able to eyedropper this. Cap unscrews. As you can see, it's not a lot of turns. 2.5, I think. Under 2 turns, because some people ask me this, you see. Section, same material as the pen barrel and cap. That to me is always bonus points. I hate it when you have a pen, beautiful material like this, and then you have a black section or something. I think this is more fun. And then a nice simple steel nib. The steel nib says, I don't know how well you can see that, but it says PenBBS. It says since 2005, F for fine, and at the bottom, I have to get a little closer, it says China, and then there is some scroll work. Okay, now the pen, I'm just going to clean this a little bit because I want to demonstrate something while it is still uninked. Barrel unscrews. I think I got a little bit of ink. I think it's actually on the inside. That's okay. There's a little rubber O-ring, which I have just, see, I'm destructive, which I've just effectively pulled off there. There we go. That was my fault. Just emptying that converter, put that back in. And here we have the converter. So right now there's a little bit of blue ink left. I'm just taking that out. Sorry, all of this has a purpose. I'm not wasting your time here. The converter, it has that sort of flat Lamy turning knob, which I've seen on a couple of Chinese pens recently. And then there is the actual converter. This seems to be a, I don't know if this is standard international, it looks quite wide to me. And the other thing is, it's a bit funky. As you can see, this converter is a bit loose in the section. Now what is particularly relevant here, I'm going to try and do it this way. Notice what happens when I operate this converter and push the piston back in. Okay, are we ready for this? There we go. I don't know if you actually saw that, but the piston goes so far to the front that it is actually able, especially if this is not on there very tightly, to push out the section. I'm doing this sort of against gravity now, I guess, but a couple times I did this, and whenever you do it on camera it doesn't work, but a couple times I operated this and I actually pushed off the section. Is it a really big deal? Not really, as long as you know what to expect. So I'm going to make sure that's pushed in nicely there. I'm going to ink up this pen. I'm just using a bit of Mont Blanc blue here. And I'll wipe that down, then we can do the writing sample. So, what did I think of the pen? As to writing, I kind of liked it. But let's see what you think. Let me zoom out a little bit for this. That's the cap, here's the barrel. PenBBS 266. And one thing I wanted to show you, and that's actually the reason I took out my loop. I forgot just now, I was so excited about that converter, you see, is that this nib has an interesting shape. See that? It's kind of, tipping is very interesting. It's a fine nib and the ink is Mont Blanc Royal Blue. Pen writes pretty nicely. That tipping is shaped in a pleasant manner, which makes it quite smooth. The section, which just tapers down, flares out a little bit, is a bit on the thin side for me, but that's personal preference. Maybe a little bit of a skip there, but beyond that, I actually think the pen performs pretty nicely, so that's quite cool. Wetness, well, I did just ink it up, but I also really tried to wipe down the section and feed a bit. But you see, even though this feed is quite saturated with ink, it's not a gusher. This is not a nib that puts down a disturbing amount of ink. There's nothing wrong with that. You can always make it a bit wetter. Line variation, always very careful with this. You can see you can squeeze out a little bit. Don't expect a flex nib, it's also not advertised as such. Then there is the reverse writing. As you can see, the pen runs dry and stops writing when you turn it upside down. Okay, well, there you have it. PenBBS 266. Let's see what I like about it and what I not like about it. Okay, so what do I like, what do I not like about this PenBBS 266? And I think it's safe to say that I'm also speaking about the 308 because, as I said, I think beyond the placement of the threads, it's pretty much the same pen. There's a couple of things I really like. The best thing is the colors. Such a nice range of colors available. Some are they really pop, and I think that's great. It's great that we see a Chinese brand that makes relatively affordable pens. Not as cheap as some. I have bought Chinese pens that were 99 cents, including shipping. That's insane. These are a bit more expensive. $15, $20, $30, $40, $60, really depending on the finish. But in all, I think relatively affordable, and they seem to be pretty well made. I like that you can eyedropper them. I haven't tried it. There is a little seal at the end of the section, but I would definitely use some silicone grease on the threads of the section for sure. I like the size. It's a comfortable size, slightly longer and posts securely, and then you have a really nicely sized pen, which I really think is really quite comfortable to use. A steel nib that works. It wrote out of the box, didn't have to do anything. It's not a gusher, but people don't necessarily want that. It writes, and that's what's really important. Interesting looking nib with the slightly upturned nib tipping. It does what it's supposed to do. Things I don't like so much, well, at this price, I don't think you can complain too much, although when you get to $60, that's interesting, because then you start to get some pretty serious competition. Think of, for example, specific Faber-Castell looms that are in that price range. They're metal pens that write very, very smoothly. But talking about the lower range in price, I think it's a pretty solid pen. There are some things, I mean, if I have to nitpick, this ring really sticks out a bit, and I think it would be nice if that would be more flush, but maybe it was a conscious design decision, I don't know. For me, the biggest issue was that converter. First of all, it's a bit loose in the pen, and secondly, if you operate the piston and it pushes out the section, that's a bit of a nasty surprise, especially when you find out about that, as I did, in a bottle of ink, and the section submerges into the ink because it is launched by its own converter. But maybe that was just my pen. You never really know when you review these things. You only have access to one typically, so maybe that was just this particular pen where the connection isn't that great. I haven't really heard about the other people having this issue, but in any case, is it really a big thing? The converter draws up ink. I have used pens where the converter doesn't even draw up ink. That is not an issue here. It's merely a matter of be careful you don't launch your own section. Once you know that's the case, just hold the section a bit more carefully. Shouldn't really be a problem. So, that's really all. I don't really know what else I can say about this that's negative. It's a pretty affordable pen. It's nicely made, nice materials and colors available. It writes, it draws up ink, it does what it's supposed to do. So the bottom line is, affordable pen, nice colors available, fun to give away too, because you give someone that actually writes, that works, that is not a completely crappy product, it works. I think there's a lot to be said for that. So, there you have it. I hope this was useful, and I'll gladly see you later. Bye bye.
Bye.